learning curves. Hey, welcome to a new real estate roadmap podcast with Chris Cusimano, Jen Konikoff, JD Sanchez, and that's all we have here today on our program. This is a podcast for real estate agents in general, whether you're new or experienced, you can relate, or maybe you can learn something, or if you just like to listen to what real estate agents talk about. We over here we do a lot of interesting things, new ways of doing the real estate business. We talk about that a lot, share some fun stories, and just have a nice little fun casual time here. So we are going to start today. Well, we usually talk about what we spoke about in the previous training that we hosted, but we're going to kind of pivot a little bit because before the show we were talking about some interesting stories that were happening now. I'm like, you know what, this would be some good combos to have with others. But I said all that, but I didn't even let everyone else say hi. Say hi, peeps.
Hey, and hello. I think there's an echo in the back.
Oh, go ahead.
Not only did you not let everybody else go in, but you didn't introduce everyone, so I felt left out.
Oh, I forgot about you. Sorry.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Slight banter there. Well, no, Chris, I think it's important for us to discuss all the fun stuff, including the nitty gritty. I know JD's got some stories for us, or a story.
I do. I've had a specific situation where there was, active leaks. First of all, I definitely recommend getting an inspection on a property that you're unsure of. If somebody doesn't live in it, get a pre-inspection so that you kind of know what you're dealing with. And then I've even seen where you provide these reports ahead of time to the buyers so that now the buyers can't say they didn't know something was happening when they submitted the offer, because you get a lot of these buyers that are purposely coming in. They're upset that they negotiated to the price that they got, because then they know they're going to beat you up at inspection.
We have a couple of examples of that right now, actually. But what's yours, JD?
East Deerfield.
Okay, you can't give details, obviously, but what can you give?
It's an active contract, but tell us what you can, please.
So we negotiated, a lot on the price. You can tell there was hesitation, but we got to where we wanted, and I knew it. I was like, they're going to try to beat us up during inspections, which they did. But what I did was they had this whole, worst case scenario mindset on, oh, this could be, mold, and it could be this huge problem to remedy. Yeah. Well, I got my inspector in there who's a general contractor. Theirs was not. So mine also kind of was more knowledgeable, because they started mentioning structural issues, which their inspector is not even licensed to discuss structural issues.
Yeah.
And my inspector kind of debunked a lot, and then set a proper estimate as to what the expectation was for repairs. So then we were able to negotiate through it, because they were doing worst case. We were more realistic, and we did end up in the middle ground and move forward.
That's awesome. I love how you navigated that obstacle, because it's worst case scenario, they're already in their emotions. So you were able to bring it back to factual, and by bringing in Mike is your guy, right?
No, it's actually Joe.
Or Joe. No, Higgins, right?
Yeah.
Mike,
awesome.
Joe.
Yeah. Well, no, but he is great, and he's one of those guys that it's to the point. He's not going to fluff it for you. He's going to give it to you straight and really help you get across that threshold of, it's not worst case scenario. This is how we can tackle it. Here's your real numbers.
Right.
I like the fact that he was able to tell them, this is what it is right now. I don't know what it was last week, and I don't know. No one knows what's it going to be in a month. Because if we start playing future telling, then, you can put anything you want on there. So I like that, keeping it real.
You also have to understand that an inspector is not this end all be all knowing entity. They're just another human being with an opinion, So we gotta, if you have some experience in this game or experience with houses in general, you can look at things and you can kind of determine for yourself how serious things are. Oftentimes they're not that serious. People freak out over a GFI outlet or something like that. That's $20, right? I can even do that. So, it's just, you just got to kind of have that in the back of your mind. But what we're noticing here in our market, and you guys can all relate, I'm sure, the market shifted here in Southeast Florida. It was for a while very heavy favor to the seller's advantage. Now there's a number of circumstances at play that it's shifted in more of a static, maybe slightly towards the buyer's advantage now, right? So what's happening with buyers, they are being very slow, very cautious, very uncertain. making offers, rescinding offers quickly, making offers, and then during the inspection period, coming back with outrageous requests and demands. Right. That's what's happening here. And we have to prepare our sellers for that up front, because every seller, what do they say? They're like, I'm selling as is. And you have to say the same thing over and go, yes, you are, as is, with the right to inspect. What does that mean? Yeah, you can sell it as is. That's what the contract states. However, the buyers still have the right to do an inspection. And so are you when you buy your house. So even though it's as a right to inspect, they can walk away for any reason during that inspection period. By the way, that's anywhere from 5 to 10 days usually ish, give or take. They can walk away for literally just about anything. So what typically happens, and if you're new to real estate, or if you are just maybe someone thinking about selling a property and just kind of checking our vibe here, the good tip about that is when you put it up as is, yeah, but what's likely going to happen is a buyer's going to come and ask for something. I don't think I've ever had a transaction. I shouldn't say that. Maybe very, very small number, like minuscule, less than 1% of transactions where a buyer has not requested something during the inspection period. And what usually happens if you don't prepare your sellers, or if you're not prepared as a seller, and that happens because you weren't prepared for it, and you already had in your mind that you were sold as is, emotions kick in because you weren't prepared properly on that. So I don't know. I think that's kind of important takeaways, especially in the market that we're in now.
Yeah. Especially when you're when you're doing some heavy duty negotiations on the front end with agents, a conversation that I do have with the other side is the fact that, listen, we've gone up to bat for both of our clients. Just understand now, when we're going to inspection, unless something is broken, that seller is not going to budge. Like, I have that conversation ahead of time, because unless it's broken and uninsurable, like that's where I like to lay my line in the sand. So they don't think they can just keep inching over and over, nickel and diming you on the back end. Same thing on the back end with the sellers. The same thing. It's just about educating them. Yes, as is, right to inspect. However, if there's something on that 4-point, that is going to be an issue for this buyer or any other buyer moving forward. So it's best to take care of it, of course, if you know it ahead of time. And then if it comes up on inspection, well, that's a whole
That's
different.
an important point, because oftentimes you will come across sellers who says, nope, I am not taking care of whatever that issue is, that roof leak or whatever. I'm not taking care of it. But now that we are aware of anything material deficient in the property, whether that has any monetary value or any health value or any type of hazard in any way, we have to legally disclose it moving forward. So with sellers, like, let's just say hypothetically you found mold in AC ducts and you're like, nope, never had an issue, don't care, not cleaning it, nope, cancel the contract, which some sellers get, they get like that. It does happen. So if that happens, that's fine. You're like, listen, I support you, but you have to understand, because what they're thinking is, we'll get a new buyer and a new inspection who may not see it. The problem is, we already saw it. As legal professionals who, we have an obligation to do the right thing, we now have to disclose those things to all future buyers. So good luck finding a buyer who's going to buy a house with mold in their AC ducts. You're going to take care of it anyways. You should take care of it anyways, because it's the right thing to do nonetheless. But skipping that, you're going to do it anyhow. So you might as well just keep the buyer that you have, instead of putting it back on the market for another 2, 3, 4, possibly a couple months, and losing all that holding costs, taxes, insurance, HOA, mortgage payment, etc.
To combine what you said and what Jen said, right? Every transaction is completely different, but there are certain things that we see over and over. And that's why setting expectations with your sellers from the get-go, it's so important. You said, 99.8% of people are going to try to renegotiate after the inspection. Yep. They will find something. The inspector's job is to find something. And a deal that we had not long ago, we went in, we said, listen, we are going to certify this roof because it could be an area of concern and it could reduce our population of buyers. We did that. We disclosed it, put it in the MLS, shared it everywhere. And guess what at the inspection was said? Hey, we want a roof credit because we didn't know the situation. I was just like, is the roof in the room with us right now, or this roof you speak of is something that you've known about? Like, we told you this from the get-go, and the seller knew it. I told her this was going to happen, and it happened. But now you can go back to the facts, right?
That's very important. So with the Homes by Cusi team, what we do is if we have a roof that is not necessarily physically, but time-wise, if that's even a statement, close to what would be the expected end of the life cycle of that particular type of roof, we will go in there, of course, with the permission of the seller and do a pre-listing roofing inspection. And that's kind of a big deal. So this alludes, we did this with Jair's property. I know exactly which one he's talking about. And if the roof inspection says, yeah, no, you're good, this is an insurable roof, you're fine, great. Now we can now put that report, fully disclose that on the MLS and make it available and put a note, see attachments for a roof inspection, insurable, blah, blah, blah. A couple of things that does is, one, if we hire someone and they go in there and they go, no, this roof is shot, right? Pretty good chances are it is, because they were the people we sent out there, right? They don't want to cause problems and lose future business, right? If anything, they want to tell us what we want to hear. But if they come and say that, then what we can do is we can get ahead of it with a seller. Like, here are the options at play. We need to choose one of these options if you want to move forward. What traditionally happens in real estate, and this is not knocking anyone, this is just from experience, a real estate agent, and on average, a real estate agents don't close that many transactions, so they get excited for any fish that's swimming around their hook, right? They don't care how stinky and dirty and disease looking that fish is. They're fishing, something bit, they're bringing it on the boat, right? And they're going to close their eyes and just hope for the best, and close their eyes and eat it, cut into their fish with their eyes, just and holding their nose and all that stuff, right? And just hoping that they don't get sick. What happens is they usually do get sick, if you want to use that analogy, because you'll go into a contract and then all of a sudden 3 to 4 weeks in, we find out that no one knew about the condition of the roof. It can't get insurance. They can't get a mortgage. Guess what happens? The seller already took them X amount of time to get a contract with all the showings and open houses and burden their whole life. Then they get a contract, and now the seller's packing boxes and they're moving, doing all these things. And then we find this out now, right? And that happens a lot. So it's very important. If you're a seller and you're in Southeast Florida market, just hire us. You don't have to worry about it. But if you are going to hire someone else, first off, we all make mistakes. That's okay. But the second part of that, like, make sure your real estate agent does do these things, because it's going to cost you a lot of time, stress, energy. Your wife and your husband are going to be mad at you for not doing it the right way, and it's going to cause a lot of rifts. So,
that's
what Jai's talking about.
I'm not even speaking about inspections, just knowing and doing the research. I was going back and forth with another agent, reading the rules and regulations, the docs, everything possible, just to make sure that I was minimizing any potential obstacles for my buyer on the back end. And she texted me. She's like, I just want you to know that I love that we're doing our due diligence on the front end.
Yeah.
That we're not having to go through all these items on the back end, which most people don't. I don't want to wait. And I told her, I was like, absolutely, I don't want to waste the seller's time, my time, the buyer's time, or money. It's just so important to go. It's a lot of work on the front end, but it's so important to do.
Yeah, but it's less work long term.
Yeah. And again, our referral business won't hurt from this, because it's all about the experience.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate with the such low barriers of entry into this business that sometimes we do get a lot of cycled through real estate agents who are in and out in a couple of years, who just haven't had these experiences. And unfortunately, those things do happen. JD, are you falling asleep over there? You okay?
No, I was actually trying to reach quietly and close my door because my AC kicked on.
Oh, I just see her like slowly like.
I was like, oh, Reese, I gotta come back.
For 3 years now, I've been trying to do sound effects, or 4 years now on a podcast, and I can't figure it out. But that would have been the perfect sound effect of you just like, or like a snoring sound effect or something.
I don't know why I thought I could reach way too far.
Speaking of JD in this situation, we just had a deal recently down the street from where she lives, as a matter of fact. And this type of property had roofing issues, and we knew that was going to come up. It had other issues in the house too. This particular community had cast iron pipes, and they had this and they had that. We had termites. We had all these things that we knew someone's going to have to come in and put some money in. So we had two options with the seller. We can make these repairs up front and hope and aim for that avatar, or we can just price it, quote unquote, as is, fully disclose everything, and make it a very exciting property for someone to come in with a blank slate and make a blank palette and make it their own. After a few conversations, she decided option 2 was her best bet. She might not recoup her money on the repairs and upgrades. Let's just, do it that way. And we got a tremendous amount of offers, but the one we ended up going with was a really good offer. But in there, everything was disclosed: the roof, everything we just mentioned. It was also written. It was verbally disclosed, everything. And they still asked, what was it, JD? Like $35,000 credit for a new roof?
I think I think it was 25 total. They were trying to get.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
For a roof.
Including, well, it wasn't just the roof. It was like all the other items. And there was only like 2 items that we thought were valid that they didn't know about.
After the inspection.
After the inspection. And the only one so me and Chris stepped in and we ended up handling the sprinkler system, because sellers need to take care of things, in my opinion, that are going to devalue the house by not taking care of it. Mm-hmm. So your sprinkler system's not working. It's kind of like flooding. All your landscaping is going to die, devaluing the property.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're under contract and it looked like this the day that they went under contract, and then all your sod dies the day of closing, that could be a problem. Mm-hmm. So we were really adamant on, let's maintain the property throughout, this process. And at the end of the day, the buyer was just trying. She was trying to get
money. Yep.
She shot her shot. We shot her down, and I think she got $5,000.
She got $5,000, and it was a valid $5,000, by the way, with the things that were on the list. Let's be honest. It was just the things that she was mentioning, try to get that. They were already disclosed up front. And she used ChatGPT on her email reply. It was very honest. But here, it was very obvious. But there's some people will be afraid to call people out on those things.
Wait, did you call her out on her?
Oh, I totally did. You know me. But there's like, it's not like, hey, gotcha. It's more like, hey, pretty cool idea, but I know that you did that. You know what I mean? And this
in her head still sounded like, hey, gotcha.
No. She appreciated it. She actually wrote back like, LOL, that's don't make me fire my personal assistant or something like that, or whatever she said, something like, I forgot the exact verbiage. But my thing is, it's like how you say it and how you come across, and also the personality of the person on the other side that broke the ice in the negotiations. Like, okay, you got me, but okay, so what can we do here? And we did. We got it from, JD said it was $25,000. We got it down to $5,000, which made sense. There was another point that I wanted to bring on all of that. Well, no, I think, JD, you just said it. Basically, right now, buyers are just shooting their shot, as JD said, right? They're just trying to see what they can get in the current market conditions. But here's a very, very important point for anyone from just experience. You don't just blindly go back and forth with negotiations, and you don't just go just on the inspection. What you do is see what the buyer's other options are if they do cancel. So you go on the market and like, okay, if they do cancel this contract, what's the next property they are going to likely buy? Or that's the next best thing, right? Why do you want to do that? Because then if you're the best game in town. If you're the best game in town, then you can go and be like, hey, just, in the conversation, just so you know, I was looking to see what else is out there, just doing my due diligence. The only house that's even close to this one is that one, and it was $50,000 more. So if you guys walk away, you're going to go to that one and then they start with $50,000 above. And you got to start all over again with new inspections and all that. It's just silly. And that's actually what happened in that particular case, because it did it. The next house was $50,000 more and just slightly nicer, but they're going to have to remodel the whole thing anyhow.
So question, Chris.
Yeah, what's up?
So with that, is this a conversation? Like, I would have that conversation with the agent.
Yep.
Was that a conversation that you had with the agent? Like, okay,
absolutely.
Yep. All right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like planting a seed in that agent. Like, hey, have a conversation with your buyers. Like, what is their next option? Like, this is what we're at. This is their price point. They clearly want to be in this area, whether it's school system or location to the highway, whatever. I mean, price per dollar. You're going to go back 30 more days, shopping for so many days. And now to potentially still land in the same position as you're on right now? Let's make this work.
100%.
That's what we tell all our sellers, right? The sellers that we tell them is, Well, from the get-go, we're going to negotiate for you. And what is negotiating is gathering as much information as we can at the beginning, during the process, and being able to strategically use that information as you, your property, and your long-term goals needs it. Not everyone does it, but as you can see with the previous examples, by gathering all that information, we're able to get ahead of situations and negotiate the best way possible for our sellers.
Jair, most people don't do all that work. Let's be totally real. And that we use that to our advantage when we represent our clients, that we do. Because they didn't expect us to come back with, and that's just one example we're talking about. They didn't expect us to come back with that. Another tip about on that particular deal, actually, as well, part of the credit they asked is that the cabinet, there's something wrong with the cabinets in the kitchen, and they wanted, I forgot what it was, but it didn't matter what it was. It could have been the cabinets could have been falling off its hinges, and why? Because they're going to gut the place and remodel it anyway. So they look at something that they were going to throw away anyway, and like, ooh, let's tack this on, right, to get more money on it out of here. And then you have no problem calling them out on that. Like, listen, I get what you're trying to. You never come with confrontation with the agency. You always listen. That agent is doing her job. She's trying to get her client more money, right? You can't get upset by it. You can't think they're screwing you over and putting one over you. She's doing her job. So it's our job to stay calm and collective too. And was like, listen, I totally get what you're doing. I would do the same thing if I were you. But doesn't mean I don't know what you're doing, and it doesn't make sense. What do you mean? You're going to gut the kitchen anyways. You're going to throw it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there's little tiny worms crawling around those cabinets. It doesn't matter. You're throwing it away anyway.
Thanks for the visual.
It was priced to have the kitchen completely redone.
Yep.
So
imagine they don't exist. They're not there because you're not paying for them.
It didn't matter. But they were trying to get another whatever X amount of money for it. So things like that are super important. I'm doing a negotiation right now. I'm literally looking at it on their screen, and the request was for a new AC system, a credit of $7,500. They didn't send me the inspection report with it, so I looked at. They finally did after I asked for it. The inspection report on it says doesn't say anything about the age or the working condition. It says that. Actually, no, it says the AC is getting to the end of its useful lifespan. A home warranty purchase is recommended, and cleaning of the coils are needed. But to what I always say to buyer's agent, I know what you're trying to do. It just doesn't make sense. You don't replace something that's just because it's old, it's still working. And your inspector actually did you a solid. They gave you good advice, a home warranty. Give that as a closing gift to your buyer. Because if the AC does break during the home warranty, then they get a free one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We gifted one to one of our buyers recently, and then a month later, she texted us saying this was the best gift ever, and she's getting a brand new AC out of it
for $75.
So yeah, well, we paid. I think it was for her it was $75. For us, I think we added an extra fridge, and I think the total was just under $700 for
it's like $700.
Yeah, but overall, not only was she happy at the end, she's even happier now that she's getting a brand new AC.
Yeah, it was on another AC that she was having issues with.
I know it wasn't even the other. It wasn't even the one that.
Yep.
Such as what? That's home ownership for you.
Yeah, but that's a great tip for people listening too who are just not experienced. It's like when you see those things, these things are old, but there's no reason to have your seller come out $7,500. Just get a home warranty. You pay for it as a closing gift, $700 for I think it's 13 months. If you want to add another year or so to it, do it, whatever. Or if you're representing the seller, maybe have the seller offer that in lieu of a credit of an AC. And it's better than a repair of the AC because now the whole place is protected.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And they might be able to milk that AC for 5 more years. And then they didn't have to replace it right away. And the house wasn't being sold with a brand new AC. Why would they expect the seller to then give them a brand new AC? I always say at best, if it's not cooling properly, we're splitting it because we weren't promising you a new one.
Yeah. Plus all of our listings has the age of the AC and the roof in them anyhow. So I always say that too.
Right.
That's part of the thing is like, hey, the age was fully disclosed on these things before you saw it. Did you disclose it to your client? Usually they don't, usually they don't do that. That happened the other freak. I can't get the exact details. There was something that was fully disclosed on the age of something on a recent deal. I don't know that I have it vaguely, but basically it was that was the conversation I had with the agent. They're like, he was. Oh no, I know exactly. That was for Jair's one. Okay, that was the same one Jair was just talking about recently, and we had it. We had the inspection in the thing in the listing attached. We had the age in the broker remarks. We had the age in the MLS where it inputs it, and then the other agent says in their email, we were not expecting the roof to be this old or something like that. I'm like, how weren't you? So a couple things behind that. This is kind of important. One, other than it just being there, right, in front of it, before we show property to our clients, we list the age of all these things before we even go, right? And every real estate agent should do the same thing. And two, we never even listen to what the other real estate agent put in the MLS because oftentimes it's incorrect. We pull permits ourselves. Who's dinging like crazy? Is that you, Jen?
I put my phone on do not disturb. My watch is on silent. I don't know where else. Literally, I think it's me. I just don't know how.
Yeah, you're dinging somewhere.
I don't know how. I'm sorry.
That's a really cool. That's a really important tip for real estate agents is to not take the word on anything from the real estate agent, even if it's in there. Just look up the permits yourself. It takes literally 30 seconds before you go. You know,
I just had that happen where it was in the MLS that it was a certain age and it was off by 8 years.
Happens all the time.
Which was kind of a big deal.
Never listen to another realtor.
8 years. Come on, that's a big.
That's something that, let's be real, right? We have one of those jobs that everyone thinks they can do, and it's so bad that we don't even trust each other. What we're saying, whatever you see online, don't trust it. We got to check the fact. And I just had one. Buyers wanted to go into a neighborhood. I said, listen, every other listing in there has a certain amount of percentage down payment that you got to put in there. This one doesn't. Agent says it doesn't. It doesn't mention it, but I'm telling you, I don't even know how this is here. I don't think this is available. And yeah, I called the agent and said, listen, I'm just going to do you a favor. This is what you need to put on your listing because, it's wrong. And you're misleading some people. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. And then my buyers were like, oh, okay, well, thanks for checking that out. And that's why getting into like a live call on the MLS with them and showing them these websites on a Google Meet works. I'm like, look, this is what this is saying. I'm going to show you what's active and says differently. I'm going to show you what the rules and regulations say, and I'm going to show you something else. So it's 4 versus 1.
For sure. And the same thing too with like whatever requirement you were talking about, I had the same fairly recent on income requirement. And the agent swore up and down, no. I was like, well, I'm looking at all the other listings that closed. This same building has $39,000 income requirement, so on and so on. So I called the HOA, the management company. They confirmed. But again, that's just another piece of verification that we have to do to make sure we're not wasting anyone's time.
Yeah. I have another story, but I think more. Yeah. I have another story, but I think we kind of made our point on that. But it goes beyond other real estate agents. It also a lot of times the people pick up the phone on the HOA side are incorrect. And I had a conversation recently where an attorney was incorrect, and it would potentially cost my client $300,000.
No,
I can't give too many details. Just know that this individual, he met his wife after she inherited a house. And totally paid off. They ended up getting married, and he moved in, and they raised a family together for X amount of years. I think it's like a dozen years or so. He did all the repairs in the house. It was their primary residence for that amount of time, and now they're getting divorced. And anyway, so I was walking him through, okay, you're probably going to walk away with X amount of money. Florida's a 50-50 state. Well, he spoke to a divorce attorney who told him that, no, he's not going to get anything because in an inheritance is not the same as if if they purchased it before on their own. Like an inheritance is like a gift, right? But I did my research and I talked to another attorney to confirm the research I did. And there are 2 ways that that's not true. It is true if you didn't make that your marital home. It was their marital home. 2, if the other person did not invest any money on any repairs or bills like electricity or taxes or anything like that, then that's true too. But he did. He paid half the bills, if not all of them. So I gave him this information, his new attorney, and guess who's like the Superman with the cape? So my point is, a lot of real estate agents in that situation will just go, "Oh, that's just what it is." And I'm like, hold on a second. That attorney's just another human being,
Right.
So
all right, so I got a quick
let's
one on
see
that.
if that's accurate.
The minute you commingle on anything, you don't even have to live in it. Because I almost got a post nut because I had a house that I owned before, and I spoke to an attorney and we walked through the whole thing.
Oh, so you've
And
been there.
she was like, if you, it's that, like, only one of my properties would have been exempt because where are they making the rent payments, right? Like, let's say you don't live in it. If the rent payments end up in a commingled joint account, guess what? That's no longer your only asset. She was like, you messed up. She's like, unless you do a post up, there's no rectifying it if the person wants to kind of like, goes 50-50, you commingled the funds. It has to be like a separate account, only in your name, probably a business account. All the payments, not only the payments, but everything that you use to fix and repair the property cannot come from yours. So if you made a payment to do anything out of your personal, you commingled.
Oh, it's good to know. Let me make a payment on my wife's property real quick and get that under my name.
I was like, okay, what else can I commingle on right now?
That was the magic word that the attorney kept using with me.
Commingle. And a quick one. That's why it's important to have an HOAs, and the people that are in them, they mean the best, but some HOAs are just scaring all the buyers, and that hurts their own residents when they're looking to sell. Mm-hmm. So it's always good to have responsible people on boards. You need a realtor, you need an agent, maybe an architect, people that have their ear to the ground in different industries, because you want them to protect your biggest asset. Because if you just leave it to people to say, well, I don't know, it is what it is, that's it, there's nothing we can do about it, and they have no skin in the game or no interest, then all the homeowners might be affected by that.
Not might, will be affected.
Yeah, they will.
They will. It's not a might. It's 100% will. Because it, not only if they're, sorry, Chris, but if they don't have their ear to the ground, they don't know what the hell they're doing, which sadly most don't, that will reflect 100% in their budget and how they manage, especially if there's no property management company that's helping them navigate through these items. But the budget is where it hurts them the most.
That goes to your thing. They're asking for triple. We have a certain income on a 55 and over community on people that are on fixed budgets, and you're asking for this unrealistic income for them. You're only hurting your sellers in your community because no one's going to buy and the value is going to go down. You have to make that realistic to what's happening in the market, and only an agent knows that.
Yeah. I think people put too much weight on the word and expertise of individual people without actually looking into things a little deeper. And I believe that, and I could be wrong, it's just an easier thing or something else people can move off their task list in their brain. Like they're just, okay, that person's professional, that's what they told me, I will move on, right? But you can't do that. It reminds me, if we're getting out of the real estate space and just talking like a human space, I have people in my family growing up that are very gossipy. And they would say, did you know this happened? And did you know this happened? And I used to, even as like a kid, I'm like, how do you know? Like you only heard what that person's like, were you there? You know what I mean? Well, this is what happened and that's that. And I'm like, well, but that's what that person told you. You know what I mean? But that's my point, is like people will hear things, and because they heard what they thought they should or want to hear, they just move on to the next without actually really thinking about it. And that's unfortunately what would have happened to that gentleman I was just talking about before, because it was an attorney and he just heard it. It was good enough because it came from an attorney and he moved on. But you gotta, like, as a real estate agent, the whole point of how we got here is that those real estate agents are just people too. The same people that are gossiping in my family just have a real estate license, right? Like they're just humans too. And it's not that you can't trust anyone, but humans have a tenacity for us, a tendency, I should say, to take the well-being path or the easier path and just move on to the next. We see it in listings all the time, always improper information or just the minimum information and put it into it. So you got to kind of, work with a team that does the extra steps. By the way, the Homes by Cusi team in Southeast Florida, 56159. I'm just.
I was going to insert, always cover your ass. Yep. All right. Cover my ass, cover my seller or my buyer's ass. Just cover. And how do you do that? By being as educated as possible. And that's researching on the front end as best as you possibly can. And just trying to see with foresight what what could potentially be coming your way, depending on the property or the person, and navigate that as best as possible with foresight.
God, I get to have this conversation like in a million different directions right now, but I think half our audience might be falling asleep right now. So we're gonna kind of wrap up pretty soon. I know we all have a busy day, but the Host by Cusi team did make a big move, and our boy Jair, who wasn't on the podcast earlier, he just randomly popped in. He just stood up and he has place written across his boobles. And what's Place, Jair?
Powered by Place. Place is a new partner that we have now. And Place is going to help us take our business to the next level. Just top 2% teams of the nation are able to join, are recruited to join, and they are given the tools that the top 2 real estate agents use to be able to scale their business. And that's who we are partnered with.
Yeah, we're going to see some big shifts in the real estate market now. And I strongly feel that the right collaborations are going to be required for the top agents to thrive. So when I started announcing that the Homes by Cusi made a big deal, a big move coming up, what's funny is that everyone in the real estate game, and apparently their mother too, thought that we were just moving brokerages, right? Because that's what people, for some reason, see as a smart business move, which it very rarely is. I don't know how much bunny hole trail we can go on that. But no, making a smart business move is not a broker move. Making a smart business move is a business move. And by partnering with a broker agnostic company like Place, who fills the gaps that needed to be filled, quite frankly, in order for us to even provide an even better service and experience for our clients and for our agents, was a necessary step in this process. Because the next couple of years in the real estate game, it's going to be quite rocky. So we got to put ourselves on a most solid footing as possible. So kind of excited to see what comes out and what we can offer our clients with our partnership.
Some really cool tools I saw in there. I'm excited to use.
Oh yeah, you guys got your thing yesterday, right? You got access?
Yeah, and just from like the videos and some of the walkthroughs, there's a few things I can't wait to be able to dive in and actually use them.
Yeah, you and me both. So the most chatty 3 people on the planet is with me now, and they're quiet. That means they are so over this, and they're ready to go.
Not over, just anxious for the rest of today's to-do list.
So you're saying we should stop?
Yes.
I think it organically ended.
Thank you, JD. Yes, we have trailed into a slower paced conversation, which means it's time to go.
Oh, I hate how wrinkly my shirt is. Okay. All right, we're out of here, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Hasta later.
Bye.
Bye.